So, welcome to this week's episode of Crap No One Tells You. And today I have Liz Hewson from Twin Lights Coaching with me. Um, and she's going to talk about some of the crap involved in transitioning from being a stay at home mom to becoming an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, let me ask the first question.
Sure.
What is some of the crap that everyone tells you about transitioning from stay at home to entrepreneur?
Okay. Well, some of the crap is that, well, I'll start with the personal side first. That part of the reason that I started the business when I did was because my oldest had turned 17. So in my mind, I thought, this is great. He can drive the others around. This is perfect. No one, I'm not needed as much. Not a problem. Crap no one tells you. Um, they still did need me. And I'm trying to start up a business. And the business I'm starting is a service business. So I'm out there scrambling to get clients while still trying to be a mother, getting the phone calls during the day of stuff going down in the house. And why am I not there to fix it? Because they're used to me being the fixer. My husband actually started working from home when I started the business. So we sort of completely transitioned our roles.
Right.
And crap no one tells you when a person is out of the home for that long a period of time. My husband was working in an office, all of a sudden working at home. He really didn't know how to navigate what I was doing at home
Right.
while he was doing his job. So it was a big, huge transition. On top of the fact that I was going out there in corporate America, um, selling my business, selling myself, having so much head trash about who's going to listen to me. What happens if they ask me, what have you been doing? What did you do up till now?
Right.
And having to say,
I had 3 employees that op I operated the operations of a household,
yes, someone once
kept
told me,
everything on track, right?
CEO of the Hewson household.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Um, and the funny thing is, Gummy, is that no one ever asked me the question. It was completely my own head trash because I really thought that people who'd been out in corporate America while I wasn't would think less of me for not being out in corporate America all that time.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common misconception because I don't know a single employer, and I know quite a few of them, where they look at someone that stayed at home with their kids and ran a household and took care of everything that came with that and go, "Oh, yeah, no, they would probably make a crappy," right? Like, if you think about it, they will probably make an ideal manager. If you can deal with 2, 3, 4 kids, whatever it is, on a daily basis for 15 years, uh, not to be mean, but that's not much different than being a manager. Like,
Well, yeah, and I wish I had you around when I first started the business because that's probably exactly what I needed to hear. And I know other women who uh, tried to transition and had a ton of head trash too about, well, wait, my family has to come first, but wait, but the business is my baby. I got to get it up and going.
mm,
So how do I navigate the family coming first, but the business needing to come first? And, it's just like anything in life. It's a balance and it's never going to be even. It's never going to be, 100% business. It's never going to be 100% family, but it certainly isn't going to be 50-50 either.
but
And
can I tell you a secret?
sure.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how big your business gets, your family always ends up coming first. And the sooner you wrap your head around that, the easier it becomes to manage the business time because no matter what happens, you will always put the family first.
Yes. And that I had guilt around that actually when I first started the business. Am I doing enough for my family? Am I not showing up enough? And to be honest, my kids were 14, 15, and 17, and they were proud of me for starting my own business, but they had no idea what their life was going to be like without me around 24/7 for them. So, they gave me a hard time. And, I think my husband too, and he gave me a hard time in the beginning too, because while he supported you know, being a coach and getting out there because I'm a born coach, I've always been able to talk to people and help people move through their difficult situations. I think he missed me being around and the perfect home and everything being done and
Dinner's ready.
dinner's ready and all of that, which, as you said, I did as a CEO of the Hewson household,
Right.
I did it all.
But if you look at it in these terms, if you have any place of employment and you have someone that's a key player in your business, and all of a sudden you go, no, 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 we're going to make them part time, right? No, nobody would be like, well, that's not really going to impact anything. So we're good, right? No, no, no. Everybody's going to be like, what do you mean they're going part time? Like, how are we supposed to function without, well, right? You put that same scenario into a household, like, yeah, of course it's going to create chaos for a while, but things, just like with a business, just like with anything else, should theoretically rebalance itself out. Like it's a matter of not just you finding the balance, but everybody else involved in it,
Hmm.
right? So I often think that people, and this is just a personal opinion, I think people have a tendency of saying the social aspect has a bigger problem with this than what it actually does, right? So I think, like you said, with the head trash, I think a lot of times both the families and the women or the men, if it's the other way around, start creating all these social obstacles that don't really exist, right?
Such as,
Um, Such as what you just said. Well, what employer is going to look at me if I've been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years? Anybody that needs a good manager.
hmm
I think the kids get overwhelmed with, well, how am I supposed to take care of these things that I've never had to? Well, mom is supposed to do this. Dad is supposed to do this. No, no, they're not. That's just the way things have been in your household.
hmm
That doesn't mean it's like that everywhere. So that's what I mean by, I think people put these social hurdles in place because when you grow up with that, that's your expectation of what everybody does. And I'm sure they found out that not everybody had a stay-at-home mom for the last 14 years, 17 years, whatever it is. So they are having to relearn what life is like having a mom that's not around every time they need her,
hmm
right? But if I'm pretty sure if you asked them, did you think everybody's life was like this?
I'm going to go home and ask them that tonight because I never thought to ask them that question. But you're absolutely right about the social hurdles, the head trash that is involved. And that's why I think, for instance, this podcast is so important to me because I want people to know if they're holding back from transitioning into something like starting their own business
Mhm.
after being at home for a stretch of time, however long it is, that it's totally possible. I know so many people who, quote unquote, went back to work, but, started working as a cashier somewhere or just didn't take a leap to do something bigger
Mhm.
because of their head trash and their social hurdles. And, oh, yeah, I'm going to add some money to the family. I'm going to go work for the local nail salon, or I'm going to go work for um, Williams Sonoma. Again, nothing wrong with those things,
I don't know.
but
But did they do it because they chose to, or did they do it because they were afraid to go after something bigger?
I think that's the one. I think we all have so much fear that gets in the way of us being our true, powerful, authentic selves. And when you really think about that, how crazy is it that we are preventing ourselves? It's all in our heads. It's literally 6 inches, between the ear to ear.
Yeah.
We are preventing ourselves. No one else is
Yes.
from being our true best self. Like,
Yes.
that's nuts to me.
And the funny thing is, when you listen to professional athletes, it, whether they are from the Olympics or from professional sports, golfers, tennis players, whatever it is, they always tell you it's never my ability to win that I question. It's the 6 inches between my ears that make me question everything, right?
Mhm.
It's the, am I good enough? Well, you wouldn't be competing on this level if you weren't, right? So it's fascinating how that applies from people we look at and go, "Oh my God, they must have it all together." And you're like, "Yeah, not as much as you think." Like their head gets in their way. Like half the time, the difference between gold and silver was a thought they had
Mhm.
while doing whatever it was they were doing.
Well, Michael Phelps is the most decorated
Mhm.
Olympian, and we followed him. All three of my kids are swimmers. So we followed him, and he always said when he got up on the block, he already finished the race. He ready. So he knew what to do with those 6 inches between his ears. He finished the race, and that was before he jumped off the block.
Yep.
And that's what you need to do. So when we're talking to people about transitioning, in particular from being at home and investing all of your time into your family and your kids and your home itself, your house, to going back out into the corporate world, um, it's so valuable to know that you are the only one getting in your way. If you could get out of your own way, you could do anything.
Yep. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
So I know you're still what I would call relatively early on in the
Mhm.
journey of entrepreneurship. So, as someone transitioning from being the CEO of the household to being an entrepreneur, what are some of the skill sets that you learned while being stay at home where you go, oh my God, this is no different than something that I used to do at home? Like, what? Because you develop skill sets no matter
Mhm.
what you do, right? It's a matter of can you put them to use for other things?
Mhm.
So, what are some of the things that you learned while running the household that have actually benefited you in getting a business up and running or starting a business?
Number one thing is problem solving, nonstop problem solving. And I mean, as a mother, certainly, and with my kids were all so close in age that it was constantly problem solving. My oldest has ADHD, and he had the hyper side of it. So I mean, constantly trying to keep him from jumping on his brother, jumping on his sister, navigating their schedules, um, navigating any issues that came up with them. So yeah, that certainly comes to my business. You have to solve problems on a daily basis in a business.
You know, there's probably some of HR directors, right? Oh my God, that's what I do for a living.
Yeah, you're right.
Just saying.
You're right. That is what they do. They do that for a living. And honestly, as a coach, that's a lot of it's not exactly what we do because it's not our job to solve somebody else's problems. They have to solve them on their own. Everything you need is within you now. But because I spend all that time doing that, it's so much easier to guide a client through a problem
Right.
because that's now one of my top skills.
That's pretty awesome. So what else?
Um,
I figured problem solving would be on
yeah,
the list,
yeah.
but there's got to be other things like organizational.
Oh, certainly organization, but I don't know if that had to do with me being staying at home or I'm just really a type A person. I always was. So if you look at the desk in our office, Mark and I share, my business partner share like a long desk, and there's my side and there's his. And if you were to put a divider, you would know
Where to,
which one's my side and which one's his.
right.
So organization has always been something that I've had. I think it's a gift. One of the other things that I realized over time that I didn't know, but now looking back on it, I do, is perseverance. Perseverance is something that
Right. So as a mom, you can't just say, I'm done, I quit.
no, no,
What?
you can't, right? You got to keep going. And, I think of times where I was literally physically ill, but like carrying a baby, you just keep going where you wake up with a fever, but oh, I'm the mommy, I got to do it. So that is certainly a skill that I know I bring to entrepreneurship because I mean, as an entrepreneur yourself,
It doesn't matter how sick you are. The job has to be
the job
delivered.
has to be delivered.
A lot of times you have to get up and do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when you have passion for it, and I had passion for my family, I still do, and I have passion for my business. And certainly that passion helps on a daily basis when things are tough because growing a business is not the easiest thing in the world. But the passion that I have for it keeps me going, the perseverance that I know that what I am doing and building, uh, people need. And that's a passion. I don't know if passion's not really a skill, but it's something you need to have, something that I take from raising my family. What else? Patience. Patience is a big one. And let me tell you, Gummy, my patience has been tested over and over, in particular since I started the business. So imagine I started a business with a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 17-year-old. Those are pivotal years. High school years are really, there's a lot of changes that go on with your kids. And my kids made sure that they, whammied us multiple times over just so they could keep us on our toes. I definitely have learned that stepping back, taking a breath, realizing it's just a journey. We're all going to get through it has certainly served me in this business. Um, if 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 people could just take that breath and realize it's going to be okay. So many of us focus on the outcome instead of the path. We don't know the outcome. We know the outcome we want,
Right.
but we can't control the outcome. So take a breath and just accept the path, breathe into the path. You're on the path. That's a huge one. That's a huge one.
So other than the head track, as you refer
Mm.
to it, what have been some actual hurdles or obstacles that you kind of looked at and went, I didn't see this one coming, but it came sort of anyway?
Hmm.
And how did you deal with those things? Because I know entrepreneurship is not a straight line journey,
No,
right?
it's certainly not for the faint of heart.
No.
That's for sure. Um, I would say the biggest one was, when you go through a coaching program, because my business is coaching, when you go through a coaching program, they train you to coach, but they also train you to believe that you're trained. Get out there, and they're all waiting for you. They're all just lined up. So my partner and I were like, okay, build it, and they're going to come. So we got the office. We figured out what we were going to do, built it, and then you're tapping your fingers, tapping your fingers. And I would say that was probably the biggest hurdle to overcome, that it's not build it and they will come. It is not Field of Dreams. It is a slog. But again, the patience, the perseverance, the passion keeps us going. So just learning how to, Mark being a doctor, he's not a business guy. I came from raising kids for 17 years, not a businesswoman. My parents own their own business, so I did experience what it was like to own a business, but not really understanding that you really are building it. You are literally,
Correct.
and when you're building a service business, you're literally out there screaming to people, "Hey, over here, I can make your life better."
It's the part no one tells you.
It's the part no one tells you.
And then when you tell them what you do and they look at you and go, what?
Mhm.
I don't
I
get it,
don't get it.
right?
Yeah.
And my favorite part is when someone is in the coaching space, right? And they talk to someone and they go, oh, I'm a life coach, right? Immediately you're judged, right? Because people have this perception of, you know, well, a life coach is nothing more than like a rah-rah person. And
Mhm.
I'm like, well, not quite, right? So I used the analogy the other day. Someone was asking me what is like, how would I describe coaching and life coaching? And I'm like, well, what if you described it as being a firefighter? And they went, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I'm a firefighter, but I put out emotional fires so that you can actually focus and not worry about being on fire. And they were like, oh, I never thought of it like that. I'm like, yeah, that's what coaching is far more about
Mhm.
than being a rah-rah for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
Coaching is not a rah-rah.
no.
Not at all. So anybody who thinks that, let's just change that right now. I love what you just said. And another analogy that I give is, okay, if you ever played sport,
Mhm.
what does a coach do? A coach isn't rah-rahing you.
No.
No, they are not. They're going to call you off the field and they're going to tell you how you played the play wrong, or
Mhm.
what you did great, and now you need to do it even better.
Yes.
So coaching is all about holding you accountable for the goals that you have in your life, for the vision that you want to create for your life. We will we will celebrate with you when you get the win. Absolutely. But we're not going to rah-rah you on if you're just standing on the field saying, "What do I do next?" Again, my kids were swimmers. You got to jump off the block and you got to swim. I'm on the sidelines. I'm not in the pool with you. I'm screaming at you to go faster. I'm doing whatever, but I am certainly not, shaking pom-poms.
The funny thing is, as you were saying this, I remember I came as an exchange student back in the mid 90s. And one of the things I wanted to try was to play American football. Like I had seen the sport, it was fascinating. Well, I was what, 17 at the time and had never played the sport. So this is high school. And the coach goes, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I have no clue. Like I have no skill in this sport. I don't even know how it properly functions. And he's like, okay, we'll put you on defense. I'm like, perfect. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, go stand there and make sure that guy doesn't run the ball this way. And I'm like, oh, that's easy. So I run out on the field and I'm standing there and I'm looking at the guy and I'm looking at the ball and it's going the complete opposite direction of me. And as I'm looking the other way, I get popped, right?
Mhm.
And I'm laying on my back, looking up in the sky, going, what the hell just happened? Right. So I run off to the sideline and I look at the coach and I'm like, I looked. And he's like, yeah, but you got to keep your head on a swivel. Right. Was he teaching me how to play the game? Yes. Did I learn the really hard way from experience? Yes. But I learned at that point in time that whenever the coach said, go do this, I would look at him and go, is there anything I need to be aware of?
Mhm.
Like before I do this, are there things that, you know, I should keep in mind because I don't want to get popped again.
Yeah.
But when you said, yeah, the coach's job isn't to rah-rah you, and I'm like, that's exactly what I experienced, like in its purest
Mhm.
form
Mhm.
at that moment.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. Like this is, I don't want to say how old I am, but this is quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still, I can still tell you exactly what the name of the player was that did it. Like I can tell you everything about him,
Mhm.
but that was something that stuck out.
And
But
that was never gonna happen again.
absolutely not.
No.
Like that was painful, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But that was one of the things that I realized later on as I was looking at a lot of these things like personal development and all that stuff is that pain is an extremely good motivator in some instances to get you
Mhm.
off your butt,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But people don't always realize what the pain is, right? Like people don't always realize what fear is. And it kind of gets in their own way. And then they end up talking to someone like you and they go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't see this before, right?
A lot of people don't realize that they have been carrying a backpack of pain, just sticking more pain in it and, adding on to it rather than starting to unload it and really see what's holding them back from being their true authentic self or doing something that they desire to do. So many people talk about, oh, I really want to do this. Well, what's stopping you from doing it?
Right.
It's what's ever in that backpack of pain. Something in there's telling you can't. We call it a gremlin. Your gremlin's telling you, no, you can't. You don't, no, don't get out of your comfort zone. That's the best place to be. Well, the reality of it is the best place to be is out of the comfort zone. The comfort zone's where the pain is. People don't realize that. And when we start to talk to people in coaching, wait a minute. Oh, so if I actually step out of my comfort zone, I'm going to feel better.
It's when you,
Yeah, it's a little scary to do it, but that's where the magic is.
Mhm.
And that's truly what I love about coaching because it's so amazing, Gummy, to see when somebody's eyes open up to to what they've been carrying, to realizing that it's them, that they've been allowing themselves to slap all this mud on their golden Buddha. That if they could just start to chip it off, they're amazing underneath and nobody's stopping them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of interesting because now that I'm thinking back on it, I remember that very first day when I got popped. And the only one that had complete overview of what was happening on the field were the coaches.
Mhm.
They were the only ones that could kind of give me guidance because they saw not only when I got popped. Sorry that I keep using
Yeah.
that, but
No,
it's literally, I
a good
still
visual.
remember the popping sound too, right? Like, but they saw the guy coming. They saw what I wasn't or wasn't doing before anything happened. Like they saw the complete picture. I only saw a tiny portion of it. But I'm still grateful for those coaches today because at the very, very last game that our high school team played at the time, I literally had the entire cheering section, the entire parent section cheering my name because they ended up making me a kicker. No judgment there, European guy kicking a ball.
Shocker.
Um, but like I was doing kickoffs and I was playing defense and I was kicking extra points. And like I remember walking off the field the very last game and thanking my coach because none of that progress, none of that would have happened if it wasn't for those 3 or 4 coaches we had that all focused on different elements.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that is so hard to explain to people unless you lived it in some area.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to bring this full circle.
Yeah, sure.
The problem is we all have. we just forgot about it because did it when we were kids. And that coach was our mother or our father, right? And we tend to forget about that. Those are the people that they didn't walk for you, right? That
Mm-mm.
they were there to make sure you didn't get hurt while you were stumbling along, right? They were the ones that helped you through schooling when you were having a bad day, when you got picked on, like whatever it is, as a parent, as a mother, as a father, you you do life coaching every day, whether you realize it or not.
Mhm. 1000%. And I love that you said that. I love that you brought it back to that. Uh, that is where my passion started for it because you're right. I was doing it every day. And then I was also talking to other parents who were doing it every day. And we all were going through struggles of trying to get our kids to tie their shoes, ride their bikes, not get picked on. Oh God, my daughter in seventh grade. I mean, some of the bullying that went on and trying to navigate that with your child and build them up and um, show them that it doesn't matter what other people say. You are perfect. You know, so much of that is about parenting and stepping up for your kids. And then, yeah, I bring it to the business that I'm in today because, well, coaches always say coaches need coaches. Everybody needs a coach. Um, Mark and I feel that in our business, what we bring to the business is a lifetime of experience too,
Mhm.
because I can talk about things like when you talked about getting popped, I can picture that. I can picture that, you know, with my kids when things happen like that. And I could feel your pain because, yeah, you know what? You were on that field with blinders on.
Mhm.
And then what happened after that? Your blinders were off and your head was spinning probably like an owl when you were out in the field because you didn't want that to happen again.
Correct.
And that's what a good coach does is helps you see where your blind spots are so you can get out there and you could show up the best that you can for your team, for yourself, for your family, for your career, whatever it is you're doing. And for me, it happened to start as a stay at home mom.
Yep. That's actually pretty fantastic if you think about it.
It is pretty fantastic. I don't think I would have been able to talk like this 5 years ago. So, for anybody out there who's doubting that they can start their own business or get out into the working world again, have no fear. Just trust yourself because, as you said, Gummy, whatever you're doing at home right now, just bring it to the business world. It's your skills are needed
More than ever.
more than ever, more than ever.
So, well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I really enjoyed this conversation,
I did as well.
and I am sure we will bring you back. Um, Sounds like you have a lot of experience that people could utilize. So, on that note, I want to thank you guys for listening and check in next week for our next episode.